stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, prayer, Pastor Brenner. Is it Trepovich? Trepovich? It was close.
It was very close. Very good. Awesome. Let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you for another year. We thank you for our township and our leadership and the elected officials and everyone here tonight. We ask for wisdom. We ask for your sovereign direction, Lord, and what we need to do and things at hand on the agenda. We ask that, as always, all things be done decently and in order. And we ask for your protection, Lord, as well. I pray that you bless our families in our community, Lord. I pray that everything that is done here will be to furtherance, Lord, a wonderful place for our families to live, raise their children, make memories, cherish those memories, Lord, for times to come. And I pray that you bless this time tonight. Thank you for a warm building. Thank you for everything that you've given us. And we are grateful for another day to live. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda. I need to add underneath 8H, appoint Rick Steiner to the Compensation Commission. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve tonight's agenda with the amendment.
Support.
Motion and support by Bruni. Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Januzak?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye. Motion carried. 3, consent agenda. Agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file minutes from January 7th, 2025, regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. General savings, pooled funds, and CETA reports from the treasurer for December 2024. Balance sheet and revenue expense report for the period ending December 31st, 2024. Accept with regret the resignation of Joseph Kopiak from the Bedford Township Fire Department and the deficit elimination plan. I look for a motion. I don't need a motion. Do I?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Support.
Motion and support by Janusek.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Januzak?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye. Motion carried. Number 4, presentations. Monroe County Sheriff's Department. Officer Hammond.
Good evening, Joe Hammond with the Sheriff's Office. You received your stats for the prior month in the packet. Everything was within the standard that we've seen over the course of time. No new crime trends to report. I would say, as much as we don't really like the cold, it has a great effect on crime rates. So I want to see the sun come out again, but crime has substantially, we're a little bit less busy in the winter months. So if we have any questions, or
What we'd like to do at this time, if we could call up Officer Bills, the presentation. What I'd like to do is have all the board members come up front, like we've done in the past. If we could do that. Troy?
Where do you want us at, Al?
Which one are you?
Better photo in front. Yeah, that's what you have done historically. Yeah. That's right. We're gonna get in the photo and then read that, or what?
We're reading first.
Are we reading first, or you want pictures, Al? You want me to read the resolution or have pictures first?
Okay, you can use that mic.
Yep, I'll use that mic. So tonight we're here to honor Deputy John Bills as Monroe County Deputy Sheriff. And before I get reading the resolution, I was hoping this would be a roast instead of a resolution. I mean, so as we were talking before, I've known John a long time, worked with him for so many years, and he's been more of a brother than a coworker all these years. And to put in perspective of how long we've worked together and we've known each other, I remember when each of his kids were born, and now they're sitting here and they're grown adults. And they've turned out to be fantastic adults. I remember when the twins were born vividly because nobody knew that we had flying cars, but back then Deputy Bills made a patrol car fly from, I believe, Ida to Monroe. So, you remember that, John? All right. Mr. and Mrs. Bills, I can't say enough about what a fine son you raised. He's been awesome to work with. This is definitely well deserved. And now he's teaching DARE at our public schools down here, and couldn't think of a better person to do that, to teach our kids. So without further ado, John, I won't embarrass you anymore because I've got some remember wins. So, whereas Deputy John Bills is Monroe County's Deputy Sheriff assigned to the Bedford Public Schools as a Student Resource Officer for Douglas, Jackman, and Monroe Road Elementary Schools and the Bedford Township substation of the Monroe County Sheriff's Department. And whereas the Bedford Township Board, on behalf of the citizens of Bedford Township, deeply and sincerely appreciates the efforts of Deputy John Bills, who leads the Sheriff's Office SRO Division with the number of calls for service handled and citations issued in 2024, and who commits to teach several youth programs, including the DARE program, while conducting himself as a role model, mentor, and positive influence on our local youth. And whereas Deputy John Bills began his career with Monroe County in October of 2000, preceding his graduation from the Michigan Police Corps at Ferris State University. And whereas he has served the Monroe County Sheriff in the capacity of a Bedford Contract Deputy Officer from 2017 to 2023, working the Uniformed Services Division as a Field Training Officer. In addition to his police duties, he joined the Bedford Fire Department, working as a part-time firefighter, achieving the rank of lieutenant until his departure in 2022. And whereas Deputy John Bills is always willing to take on additional work along with special assignments to assist with staffing when needed, he is a certified fire investigator with Monroe County Fire Investigation Team and routinely assists with specialized investigations. During his career, Deputy Bills has also served on Narcotics Investigations Unit Omni and the Monroe County Sheriff's Office Dive Team and Special Response Team. Now, therefore, be it resolved that upon review and consideration and with deep appreciation from and on behalf of the citizens and students of Bedford Township, the Bedford Township Board hereby designates John Bills as Bedford Township Sheriff's Deputy of the Year and declares January 21st, 2025 as Deputy John Bills Day in Bedford Township, and granting all rights, prerogatives, and privileges attendant thereto. Congratulations, John. Well deserved.
You're always kidding with us kids. Are we in the picture or no? Okay.
That's why I didn't sit down, Craig.
Hey, John, but before you leave, I want the older guy arrested with the glasses. I know him. We can cuff him. Yeah. Great.
Now, if I could just make a comment. So probably March or April, I'll be down to provide an annual report for all the statistics for the last couple of years and just show you to compare and contrast what the Sheriff's Office done in Bedford Township. We've got some graphs and some other data we'll push out to you. So, but I'm thinking, try to do my best to get down here in the month of March, so if I don't have a conflict. So, and again, unless there's any questions. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Al, real quick, I don't know if you want to give people a time to dip if they, unless they want to hear about our financial update and oh, look, they're running now.
Yeah, look.
Man.
All right, where are you going?
The good stuff is yet to come. It's budget.
Ready to go? Okay. 4D, financial audit report. Gabbard and Company. Bob, if you would like to come up. Well,
Okay, good.
sure.
Hi everyone. My name is Ian Reese. I was one of the auditors who worked with Bob on the financial audit. So it was a pleasure to work with Bob and everybody else involved, and he made it very easy. So that's always a plus. What I'm going to do, I believe you all have a copy of the audit in front of you that you can reference as I go through it. I'm just going to tell you what our opinion was on the financial statements, give you sort of some of the financial highlights, answer any questions as you have any, so feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions, and then I'll try to keep it pretty quick and simple so that I can answer any specific questions you have if you have any. So if you open up to page 1, it is about 3 or 4 pages in, but it is the independent auditor's report page. If you look at the first 2 paragraphs on there under the opinions section, it's the wording or the verbiage for an unmodified or a clean opinion. It's the best opinion that the township could receive. And so in essence, you pass the audit and there's nothing you could have done better to receive a better opinion. And that's what was presented to the state. So kudos to Bob and everyone else involved in making this quick and easy process. Page 5, this is the management discussion and analysis, and I'm going to look at the financial highlights sections and go over the few bullet points that are there. So the assets of the township exceeded its liabilities and deferred inflows at the end of the close of the fiscal year by about 55 million, a little bit under that. So you have more assets than what you owe by about 55 million. That represents an increase of about 4.9 million over the previous year. So you had excess revenues over any expenses from the previous fiscal year, or over the fiscal year. So you have an additional 4.9 million added to your net position at the end of the year. Governmental funds, specifically the second bullet point, had fund balances of about 15.9 million, which was an increase of about 8.1-ish million over the previous year, a little bit under that. About 31% of it, or 4.9 million, is available for use for whatever. It's unassigned. It can be used for anything. The difference between the 15.9 and the 4.9 is built up of your restricted funds, where it's supposed to be used for specific things like roads, or you have a special assessment fund. All of your other revenue funds that you have, it's restricted for that. Your general fund specifically had a unassigned fund balance of about 5.5 million, which equates to about 104% of your annual expenditures. So what that means, if you have similar expenditures year over year, you would, and receive no income, you'd survive a year plus 4% more. So it's a decent fund balance where you're not going to run into cash issues where you're having trouble paying bills, but it's also not a ton to where you're just sitting on a bunch of cash where you're not using it. So that's usually a pretty decent.
Exactly where we want to be.
Is that where you want to be?
I said exactly where we want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly what you said. So your total fund balance for the general fund was about $6 million or $6.8 million. The difference is restricted or assigned or committed fund balance, but that's not super important. Page 8, this is your statement of net position. It shows your assets, your liabilities, and your equity and the changes year over year. Can be a little bit hard to read because we're fitting a ton of information onto a small page. The larger changes was your cash increased about $5 million, a little bit under that, and that's because you just received more revenue than what you spent. Therefore, cash kind of inherently increases. Your capital assets decreased a little bit just because your depreciation expense exceeded any additions you added during the year, so it decreased from $47 million to about $45 or $46 million. You paid off your debt in accordance with all the amortization schedules that you're supposed to pay it off with, so there's no issue with that. Your unearned revenue is largely built up of all of your ARPA funding. You spent that down about $400K, and Bob and I discussed this. You have all of your ARPA expenditures allocated to a certain use. It just hasn't been spent yet. So once you do spend that, that unearned revenue will go close to zero, if not zero. Beyond that, those were kind of the larger changes year over year for your balance sheet. 2 more pages down to page 10. This is your income statement or your statement of changes in revenue and expenditures. You can see the changes year over year in your governmental activities and your business type. Your property taxes increased about $800,000 just due to typical property tax increases, which is normal. Your operating grants decreased about $1 million or so. You received a pretty large water sewer grant in last year, and you don't have that this year. Therefore, it decreased a lot. And then your revenues or your expenses as a whole were pretty similar year over year, but there are some small changes just due to what typically happens year over year. Expenditures aren't always the same. Sometimes you have some larger repairs and maintenance for certain things. But you can see all the different functions that they're used for: general government, public safety, public works, so on and so forth. Beyond that, if you want to go down to page 18 and scroll through all the way through page 26, those are your basic financial statements, or the important ones, I guess. There's 2 more after that nobody really ever cares about, your fiduciary funds, but I won't pay attention to that. The first 2 is what we exactly just went over, except for only 2024. Page 20 is your balance sheet for your governmental funds, so you can see specifically your general fund and any of your other major funds, all the cash and everything that they have specifically, all that rolls down into your fund balance. Page 22 is your income statement for the same, shows your fire general fund, ARPA fund, and all of its related expenditures and revenues. Your sewer fund specifically is page 24 and 25 for your income statement and balance sheet. If you wanted to see how your sewer fund is standing. And then beyond that, that's all I really had. Are there any other questions that you'd want to go over? It's a good audit, good fiscal year as far as I can tell. So.
Do we have any deficiencies anywhere, or anything that we need to correct or change policy or anything of that nature?
Not as far. This is a consistent, not deficiency. We have a finding at the back of the audit called a material audit adjustments finding, and it's not due to poor. It's not due to poor performance. It's just there are some things that we as accountants know that unless you're like a CPA or an accountant and you work in this very constantly, it's hard to know everything. So we as accountants come in and make some journal entries to bring it in conformance with standards. And then we propose those to Bob, explain them to him, and he accepts them. And again, it's not due to a deficiency. It's just something that if you have complex financial statements, it can require some larger expertise that, in theory, you guys outsource to us, that we kind of work with you on during the audit so that you don't have another accounting firm come in and spend more money that way. So in a way, it's saving money.
Do we have any more questions, or?
Well, only thing I would say is, and eventually I'll stop saying it, I don't know if I'm how seamless, like how you opened, of how seamless and I don't know if I'm the only person on this board. I don't know if you ever went through an audit with anyone besides Bob in this position. It's not how it used to be. And it's just more credit to how fantastic of a job Bob has done and how great of a hire Bob has been. So I just appreciate you giving him that.
Yeah, we love working with Bob. He's very consistently communicative, and he makes it a lot easier. That's not always the case.
No.
Yeah, I express some of the same sentiments. Bob's done a good job, but I'd also like to thank the employees, because you also get a good audit when you have employees that are following procedures, watching their budgets, and so on. Because if the employees aren't doing their job, trust me, this gets a little thicker.
Yeah.
So, and again, thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
I'll need a motion to accept and place on file the financial audit report.
Was that in the consent agenda?
No, it's under presentations.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to accept and place on file the financial audit report as presented. Yeah.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye. Motion carries. 4D, investment report. Mr. Miller?
This is the investment report for period ending December 31st, 2024. We'll start off with our cash assets. We have about $4.5 million in cash, the general fund, pooled fund, and the fire fund. The first merchant pledges assets as collateral, so the first one under general first merchants, that is collateralized. Our cash inflows for the next 3 months.
Bob, can I hop in? I don't want to keep interrupting you, but in our last report, in our cash lines, we had there was fire and rehab and medical. Where is rehab and medical?
They're still there. It's just that they were so immaterial.
Okay.
Just took them out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Our cash flow needs for the next 3 months are estimated there. So we will have approximately $1.9 million in excess cash liquidity. The current 3-month T-bill rate is 4.17. So for our investments, that is our goal. The first investment is our ARPA funds. The next investments are at UBS. We have a money market fund, U.S. Treasury bills, certificates of deposits, U.S. Treasury notes, and an agency fund. UBS
Can I ask another
investment.
question?
Yes.
So, last report, we had nothing in treasury bills. Is that something that's just
It's fluid.
we're pretty fluid with? Okay.
Yes.
I assumed so, but that was $1.6 million. I just kind of like, all right, am I reading it correctly? Okay.
Yes. And you'll see a lot of changes.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes, but that was one that stuck out.
Thank you. We have about 11.9 in total UBS investments. We also have long-term lending through our SAD loans. Oops, I forgot one section. Maturity. For our UBS investments, this is the maturity table. So about 62.75% will mature in 1 month. We do have a lot of liquidity. The next section will be our interest income. This will be broken down in 2 sections, one by the fiscal year and one by the calendar year. We'll start with the fiscal year. You see by the first and second quarter going across FY 2022, 23, and 24, there's been a steady increase in 25. At the bottom is the annual interest. So for the calendar year, 2022, we had about $14,500 in interest. 2023 is close to $400,000. 2024, $600,000. Next is, have the investment objectives been met? It's like our scorecard. And then the last section is just some recommendations.
So, on our last one, it looks like we've made some progress with the investment objectives in that we had the liquidity, we were good, and now we're showing our credit risk is now in line. Now, you said the T-bill rate was on target, but that wasn't checked as the objective met.
Right. That's our target goal, is the 3-month T-bill rate.
Okay. But didn't you say that we're on our target?
We didn't hit it. That's our target. We missed the target.
Oh, okay.
Here's some of the rates.
Well, Bob, I think when we say a goal or a target, though, T-bills are going to fluctuate. Since we're very restricted on what we can do, I think in terms we have to take a look at that wording a little bit differently.
So
may not always achieve 4 or 5% if the market's going the other way if we get into a deflationary period.
3-month T-bill rate is a very conservative rate. That's pretty much the lowest rate out there.
Yeah, but I've seen them a lot lower back several years ago, too.
It changes every month.
Right.
So this one here, the 4.17, that'll change every month for the report. It'll go up or down depending on what the 3-month T-bill rate is at that
time. If it goes
time.
down, I mean, that's something that
it goes down. Yep.
Control. That's market driven.
Now, my question was about the other objectives. What do we need to do? Like, okay, we're clearly making some progress in this regard. What do we need to do to hit those objectives? Like, what are our next steps that we need to do?
Yep, that'll be in the notes in the column to the right. So for custodial risk, we can invest some additional cash. Credit risk, we're okay. Interest rate risk, we can take some out of the high liquid funds, move them to a little longer term, 3-month, 4-month, or 5 months in investments. The big one in the unknown, we did have a meeting with our investor, is how will the new administration's fiscal policies affect short-term bond rates?
How is that a goal?
We need to know how the markets are going to change.
So that's reactionary to.
Well, not necessarily reactionary. We can look out. We had a meeting with our investor. Krista's got some thoughts on that.
So I have a few notes here. I said, after meeting with my investment rep from UBS, he said the interest rates are still up right now, but they are projected to go down throughout the year. Me personally, I'm looking at investing into some longer term instead of the 30 days going into a ladder type investment, no longer than 12 months, to lock in those higher interest rates going forward, so that way if they do go down, we're not going to get a lower interest rate. And then Going forward, there are obviously funds that I'm going to move from lower interest rate accounts to UBS to get the higher rate, which is like our ICS accounts, because those are lower interest rates. So if I move those, a majority of that money to UBS, we're going to get more of that. That answer any
No,
of your
it does.
questions?
It was more procedural of like, okay, how will the new administration's fiscal policies affect short-term bond rates? Essentially, to get a yes is you just meet with our investor.
Yes.
So
And I meet with him
it sounds like
regularly.
you already did.
I communicate with him probably once or twice a week.
Yeah, that's why I don't. Why wouldn't it be a yes then?
Well, this report was created before we had
Oh,
that
okay,
meeting.
I got you. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it just sounded like you did it based on everything.
Yeah, he had it prepared before the meeting, because the meeting we had was on the 14th of January 14th. And then also, I want everyone to know all of the financial institutions that the township funds are in, they are secure and are doing well. The financial institutions that we use are First Merchants Bank, Fifth Third Bank, and UBS for our long-term and short-term investments. And actually, I have a phone call into Mike tomorrow to go over some things, so.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions of Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks,
So
Bob.
is there a timeline on should we be check marking all of our investment objectives?
Well, we'll be looking at this every month. So every month we got to go through the same process.
Okay.
We may hit them all, we may not.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
I look for a motion to accept and place in file the investment report. Have a motion? Marty. Good one.
It just makes sense to me.
I make a motion to accept and place on file the financial or investment report.
Motion, or a second?
Support.
Motion, Rooney, support. Please take the roll.
Janusek,
Aye.
Bruning,
Aye.
Montry,
Aye.
Orr,
Aye.
Stump,
Aye.
Fryer.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 5, public comment. Comments limited to 5 minutes for board agenda items only. Please state which agenda item you will be speaking on.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. Keeping in mind that as we begin this new year, you all have the task to clean up any hidden agendas left from the last 8 years. 4A, the DDA has surrounded the Stern Secor area with flock cameras. I'm curious if the Sheriff's Department ever apprehended those responsible for breaking into cars at the Aspen Grove facility, and I will follow that up since they left. 5C, sewers. For sure this increase isn't because Erie connected to the water system, but within the resolution, letter A, I find some aspects interesting. Amounts not based on the number in a household, but just the word a residence. As consumers, we pay a debt service charge. It's not my job to make sense of the rhetoric or the mumble jumble in the resolution. But over the past 2 years, we've been stable. So what has changed? Why the increase? Who does the review? And is it done on a regular basis? I think the Finance Department should also include an outline specific to the sewer funds, not just the numbers that we see here tonight, which reflect just 2 years and a very short line item. Why is there a debt? Are there monies in reserve? And how much and why? All these details should be disclosed and discussed in a full presentation before the board votes on this. As to 8F, the raise, the bigger picture, concerned that the belief is that the ordinance department has to be staffed by retired police. The application was never disclosed to the public. alleged training, experience, and most important, this person has a right to come to my door, but I am denied the information, and he should have to be publicly introduced so that we can have a face with the name. The request is being made by Mr. Cecil based on a personal opinion. The public deserves to see the documented changes and to know that the trustees approved. Any job within the township paid for with tax dollars should mandate a job description with an associated pay scale. Arbitrary wages and raises are not acceptable and need to cease immediately. From what was stated, maybe there should be a title change, but better, this practice must cease. Each and every job needs to be shared equally by all within that ordinance department. The disparity which currently exists needs to stop. Give some of the story. This may be the perfect time for the trustees to call for a complete overhaul of this department. I thank you.
Any others?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. The general fund, $55,862.84. Fire district fund, $11,876.34. Fire equipment fund, $1,537.13. Downtown Development Authority, $651.79. Library operating fund, $4,808.41. American Rescue Plan, $1,450. Building Department, $303.36. Sewer O&M Fund, $428,953.02. Trust and Agency Fund, $2,205, for a grand total of $507,647.89.
Support.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we go to 8B, approve a rezoning of parcel number 58-002-023-045-00 from C1 local commercial to R3 single-family residential located on the east side of Lewis Avenue, north of Dempster Street, otherwise known as 8724 Lewis Avenue, Temperance, Michigan, 48182. Ms. Rector, would you like
Jody, I could take a crack at it if you want to. And you tell me whatever if I miss anything.
Basically, why I'm here is we usually request an applicant to be here. The applicant could not make the meeting on Tuesday, signed for her real estate agent to speak on her behalf. However, due to the change in the meeting date from Tuesday to Thursday, she was unable to attend. So in speaking with the applicant, I advised her that I would attend. Should there have any questions, I know Mr. Montroy would be able to handle it. It's a pretty straightforward request. 1977, Township zoning ordinance went into effect. It's been a residential home since 1919. And they're looking to sell it. The father passed away, and they're looking to sell. And the new buyer cannot get financing because it's prior legal nonconforming C1 with a residential home. Sums it up. Craig, you have anything to add?
So what that means is, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it's the appraiser or the underwriters are not they're ready to make a sale. This kid's trying to buy a house, and they're ready to make a sale, and their loan's not getting approved because, as a C1 commercial, if this house light on fire, they can't rebuild it as a residential home. It's been a residential home for over 100 years, and that's the reason why they won't give them the loan, is because if it burns down, they can't rebuild a house there because it's zoned commercial.
Correct.
So,
and to be honest, the property is not really
residential.
conducive commercial. It's got 2 front yards, Dempster and Lewis Avenue, setbacks, and it would be a variance nightmare.
Front yard, seriously?
Front yards.
Oh, that's
It doesn't
unfair.
meet the frontage requirement for a C1 on Lewis Avenue. Parking would become an issue. It abuts residential on the surrounding, other than to the north. I mean, it would have to go through a whole site plan approval process, so. Do you have any other questions or comments?
The house acting as a house, and
It's a
has to
house.
remain acting as a house. It's
Yeah.
like the most cut and dry. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You just had me when it says eliminate the property's nonconformity status.
Correct.
I don't want to
That's
see
anything,
another
a fire, if it
non-conforming.
was a tornado, any kind of damage more than 60% excluding of the foundation, it would have to be built into compliance with the zoning ordinance.
Will this eliminate the 2 front yard status, or else we going to
We'll
see
still
them in
have the 2 front
BZA?
yards, but it would be a residential. It's outside the overlay, so it doesn't allow for the flexibility of the setbacks, so setbacks would be problematic as well in the future.
Well, I definitely see practical difficulty with 2 front yards coming for variances. So, yeah, it's a no-brainer on something like this. I mean, I'm just glad it's not going to be a prior non-conforming anymore.
It will come into
It's huge.
compliance with a residential home, with the residential zoning district. Surrounding is all R3, single-family residential.
And that's, for the folks that don't know, on Board of Zoning Appeals, that's one of the biggest issues and hurdles we have is prior non-conformings.
Correct.
And they're a pain. So,
Probably
Any other questions of Jody or Craig?
I'll make a motion.
This is the motion, how it has to be.
No, it doesn't. I mean,
Well,
it's the same thing.
Jody-
to me,
okay.
however, but.
Well, sorry.
Motion to approve the request from Stephen Lane, Tamala Velich, authorized representative for rezoning request of parcel number 58-02-023-045-00 from C1 local commercial to R3 single-family residential located on the east side of Lewis Avenue, north of Dempster Street, otherwise known as 8724 Lewis Avenue, Temperance, Michigan 48182, as the rezoning would eliminate the property's nonconformity status without changing its use. A residential land use is consistent with the township master plan. The property is located in an area primarily consisting of residential land uses, and without rezoning, single family cannot be built or rebuilt on the subject property.
Support.
Motion Montre, support Janusik. Discussion? No further discussion. Please take the roll.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye. Motion carries.
I would just like to speak, in speaking with the property owner, current property owner, and the property owner that's looking to purchase the home. They appreciate it and your time tonight.
Only imagine.
We'll see him again, Jody, at BZA.
That's fine.
Moving on. 8C, resolution to approve the 2025 sewer use rates. Krista?
In front of you is the proposed sewer rates for 2025. The operations charges will go from $6.48 to $7.62 per 1,000 gallons. The depreciation charge would go from $8.87 to $8.91 per residential equivalent each quarter. The debt charge would go from $37.11 down to $24.09 per residential equivalent each quarter. So based on a usage of 20,000 gallons of water used in 3 months, the quarterly bill would be $185.40. We were able to lower the debt charge due to paying down some of the debt considerably. Debt is paying off bonds to the sewer treatment plant. Unfortunately, the cost of operations went up as the cost of chemicals, resulting in the operations charges and depreciation charges needing to be increased. The depreciation charge is for chemicals to keep the system, help it running and keep it from not breaking down the sewage. So that's what I have. Are there any questions?
Krista, just like everything over the last 4 miserable years, everything has gone up. Cost of operations for everything. So this is just in line with what's happened everywhere else around the country.
And I am going to be looking into, I talked with Tim Sergo at the Drain Commission. There is a specialist, Tom Kasar, who will, I'm going to have look into him to see if he will do a study of our sewer rates going forward to see, break it out over the next several years to see what we can do, whether it can be lowered or if they have to be raised. And I am going to be looking at eventually, possibly, depending on costs, bringing it to the board to possibly go monthly with our sewer bills to go in line with the water bills and make it easier for our residents to budget. That's something that I am looking into as well going forward.
Looking on this, we haven't had an increase. There wasn't one in '23. There wasn't one last year.
Right. Unfortunately, this year we had to raise it.
I think people need to realize, too, that we had a major overhaul of the sewer plant in terms that was over 20-some million, that when money was being set aside over the years, we thought we were going to be in pretty good shape until we put it out for bid, and it was like $20-some million when we were anticipating that it was probably going to be like 10 million and some. And, credit to how they kept that plant running, it got to a point there were no more parts for it on these pumps and everything else. So in terms of the debt, we put it out to bid. I think it was twice, Krista. I think they did it.
Before I was treasurer,
Yeah,
yes.
they did it like twice. So just to make sure. So that's in terms of where the debt comes. Now the good thing is Bob is already starting to save for the next one, so that in 20 years when we need another overhaul, we're not going to be sitting there and saying, oh, now it's going to be 40 million and we've got 10 million. So he's already planning for that next big overhaul.
We might not have to take out as many bonds.
Exactly.
If any, depending on how much we have saved.
I have a motion to accept the resolution to approve the 2025 sewer use rates.
I'll make a motion to approve the sewer use rates as presented in the motion, the resolution.
Support.
Janusik and support by Bruni. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the 2020 poverty exemption guidelines. This is basically what the state comes out for the assessing department.
2025. You said 2020.
Oh, sorry, 2025. Yeah, these are higher rates. In terms, this is issued by the state. It's for the assessing department. It's when people come in to have their taxes lowered in terms of hardship. There's a guideline. If you go in there, we do this every year, and you can see, like, if you had one person coming in, it goes from $15,000 for one person. If you're a family 8, it's $52,720. So we do get people in Bedford Township who do come in on hardships. It does happen. I've seen it. Sitting in and on the board of reviews and so on. So it's pretty standard. Do I have a motion to approve the 2025 poverty exemption guidelines?
I'll make the motion to approve the 2025 poverty exemption resolutions and guidelines.
Support.
Gore. On the motion, support by Bruni. Do we have discussion?
I will say that we do have a lot of residents that come in, especially our seniors, who are looking for help, and having these guidelines allows some of them who qualify to get the poverty exemption on their taxes. And usually what that does is it brings their tax bill either down if they get a partial exemption, it'll bring it down, but sometimes they do qualify for a full poverty exemption, which then will bring their taxes down to zero except special assessments. So it does help our residents out.
It sure does. Can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye, motion carries. 8E, approve the hiring of a part-time firefighter EMT. Mr. Keene?
Hello, I believe received the information from Chief Van Klingeren about accepting or wanting to accept Trevor Koneski as a part-time firefighter. He is a youngster. He is motivated. Him and his brother both have motivate me, but I realize I'm not 19 years old anymore. But I like to try to pretend I can keep up with him, and his want to be a firefighter is there, and we would ask for your support of hiring him onto the fire department.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's another Konechny already on the department, correct?
There's two other ones, but
Yeah,
yes,
recognize
his,
last
his
names.
twin brother. They're
Okay.
twin brothers. Yeah.
Any other questions?
The one with the handout.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking. Sorry about that. I'm looking at my paperwork.
So-
Sorry, Krista.
I spoke with the fire chief earlier today because I had a couple questions, and they were just simple. I wanted to know what the pay rate would be, and he gave me that, which would be, and I talked to Mr. Miller, and it would be the standard firefighter EMT rate, which is $17.86. And then I also asked him what date would be the start date, and he said it would be Tuesday, January 28th. So, and I'm thinking that we should probably put that in our motion, those two.
Any other questions? Okay. Need a motion to approve. Mr. Pronounce that again?
Trevor Koneski.
Koneski? Okay. As a part-time firefighter, EMT. Do I have a motion?
Krista, you want to take a shot at it since you got the dates and?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the hire of Trevor Koneski as a part-time firefighter EMT with a start date of Tuesday, January 28th, and the standard firefighter EMT pay of $17.86.
Support.
Brilliant support. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, can you take the roll, please?
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is 8F, request pay increase for an ordinance officer. I will take this in terms of Jim Easton. He was hired back in July to replace an ordinance officer. They were making roughly $22, $27 an hour at the time. Jim came in, started at $18 an hour. Okay, he's done a very good job. His background, he has been a police officer. He worked in a prison for 19 years. And what we look for in the ordinance department are people that can resolve things, who can handle hostile situations, because we get that. When people are going out on their property, or, you're going in, you want to get rid of their chickens, or it's their dogs, or it's this. It's very emotional. And Jim can handle those situations, and he's done very well since he's been here. He gets along with everybody, and I see no problems, taking his pay up to $20 an hour. It's in the budget, and he's still lower than the other person.
Al, real quick, I've brought this up in the past, and I understand pay raises and everything like that, cost of living adjustments and whatever. What do we got to do to get a pay scale in here to where somebody that hires in knows that I'm starting it at this rate, and in 6 months or a year, I bump up to this rate? And because just about every place where I worked at, I had a pay scale. I knew where I started at, and I knew, when my raises were coming.
Right.
And it seems to me like we need something like that in place. I mean, it would eliminate a lot of problems. If somebody's making the grade, doing what they're supposed to do, they reach that benchmark, their raise kicks in, and then they look towards the next 6 months or a year, whatever the industry norm is.
I'm not opposed to looking at that because in terms and it's a good point, Joe, is that if you take a look at departments, even like part-time, like you could take the ordinance off and say, okay, if you come in, this is where you start. If you got a good review in 6 months, here's where you go. And we see that sometimes with our part-timers is that we can take them to certain levels. We'd have to figure that out. Plus, it's an incentive because a lot of times what we find out too is with our part-time people, they end up being good full-time people. So there's a little incentive there, but then there's also, hey, they might not want to go full-time, and they're great at doing part-time. So I think we could take a look at that, and we've got the same thing in assessing, right? If somebody gets their level 3 or their level 4, what are we doing? If you go in Krista's department, she's got administrators. Okay, well, if they're starting out here, but they're learning all this, then where do you go?
And I think it would help with, and we have great retention, but it would help with retention if somebody knows coming in that, oh, I don't have to wait for 2 years for a pay raise, or I don't have to,
Well, yes and no. Because, you're talking about, we're dealing with people, not just like, you're not robots or just bodies either. You could have hired somebody here that, no chance we're giving them a raise, whatever, and this guy might say, if I don't get, I don't know where this situation is, but it might, like you say, like retention, this guy's looking for a raise after 6 months and might say, I'm worth, I know what I'm worth, what I'm doing, like my experience and all that. I'm gone if I'm not getting a raise as well. So it doesn't necessarily hold retention, and I think not that it's bad to have some sort of scale of some sort that you can use as a guideline, but instead you're talking about people, and have you met people? There's different levels, and so just because someone's been here for a certain amount of time doesn't mean that they're necessarily qualified for a raise, and just because someone's been here for a shorter amount of time, it doesn't mean that they couldn't qualify for a raise.
Start out, if somebody's going to be here for 6 months, a year, or something like that, they need to have something to look forward to based on performance reviews and supervisor's recommendation. Yes, he's made the grade, we're going to move him up to the next scale.
I think that's isn't that what this is kind of, though? You have your supervisor's recommendation saying, hey, I think this guy's doing a good job, I think it'd be worth giving him a little bump. It's still below what the other person was at.
Right, but that bump, most places are given 3% and 4%. This is quite a bit larger bump than that. Or cost of living adjustment or something like that. I'm just saying there needs to be a pay scale, and that way at 6 months you hit this benchmark, you get, or a year. So
when I was in the corporate world, we did this quite a bit, and Krista might remember. It was in the banking world. You would hire somebody, and you would tell them, like, if it was a teller, this is where you're at from a teller 1 to head teller. You didn't guarantee them that they were ever going to, that it was that you had to do certain things to get to 2, maybe to 3. Some positions you may not ever get there, or it just has different things you would have to do, and so on. It was the same way with branch managers. We would take a look and say, okay, you need to get this, 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 and you had different grades so that you would know, and if a person had a lot of incentive, they were always looking like, hey, I want to get to the next grade. What can I do? So, when we take a look at it, yeah, we could change some things in terms of how we look at the policy and so on to say, hey, if we hire somebody, mean, we do have kind of like it could be pretty simple, like whether you take ordinance assessing, hey, if you start an ordinance, you start at this, after 6 months, if you've done this and this, this is where you go, you know.
Don't we already have something kind of like that? Isn't there already built-in cost of living increase of some
No,
sort?
we really never, I don't know, Krista, you've been here longest to comment on that.
Basically, when we do our budget, generally the employees would get a 2% raise, and that's what
Just across the board.
across the board.
Across the board.
Yeah, that's
There kind of
every
is
employee is getting.
Already something built in.
I mean, generally, that's every budget time. That's what we put in.
But that's not based off of performance
Correct.
or
Right.
credentials or
Correct.
anything like that.
That's just everyone across the
How
board.
much time? Okay, yep.
Yep, doesn't matter if you've
Getting-
been here
so
6
which
months
is,
or 6 years.
Yeah, getting well,
Right.
yeah. Tell me about it. There's,
And if you start at
that's how
$16 an hour and then you're getting 2%,
non-government employees
where
aren't
do you?
necessarily getting 2% pay increases,
Right.
or cost of living increases either in the private sector. So I wouldn't disagree with having some sort of something set up, but I wouldn't want to pigeonhole anything either to say that there's no exceptions for exceptional people. Like if you have someone that's exceptional at what they do and they fit the bill, and I don't know this. I mean, this guy's been here for 6 months. We're kind of relying on Officer Cecil in that regard, but I wouldn't want to pigeonhole anybody and say, no, you got to wait until you've been here this long to get your quarter or whatever. Like, if our ordinance officer is saying, hey, this guy's good, he's worth an extra $2. It's still lower than what we were paying the last person, so it's in line with our budget, and I think it'd be worth keeping that retention. It's almost what I'm assuming is he's trying to retain this guy, and so he's going, hey, like, let's throw him a bone. He'll stick around.
And I agree with the raise. I'm fine with it.
But to have some sort of, to have some sort of something built in where you have some guidelines.
I can say to your point of asking working with him, I obviously do work with him on when he's here on a daily basis, and he comes to work every day. He's very personable. He does his job. He's not afraid to get in the car and drive by himself and not have to ride with somebody every single time.
I hope not.
And it's nice knowing that we have 2 ordinance officers that can go to 2 separate places and not have to worry about sharing a vehicle. I personally think he's doing a good job. I mean, anytime I ask him to do something or I need him to do something, he does it right away. It's not sitting on his desk for a week and I might get to it, he's gotten to it within either that day or the next day, so.
Yeah, it's very conscientious. And like I said, I like it because you don't have to worry. He knows how to resolve conflict. Mm-hmm. And I already know a couple of cases that he went out on where they're kind of reoccurring people that we get, and he's handled it well. So.
Question now. Well, not really a question. Because I know before, like Shayla, Damon refused to work weekends. With you coming, because Paul never made him do it. Or is this something that you're looking at adjusting, especially like when burning leaves and everyone's calling about that, potentially adjusting so get some coverage over the weekend for the ordinance?
We could take a look at it, and I can attest to this. When we had some Saturday hours, we would get calls. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was, and it always wasn't burning. I mean, we had a call one time, it was like, the person called, they were kind of panic-stricken because a fence was going up on their property. As a matter of fact, we sent out, it was John Bill's dad was doing work for us at the time. And he went out there, and he was able to kind of measure off. We got him some information. It was like, oh, yeah, that fence was going on that person's property when it shouldn't have. So we were able to stop that without having a huge, problem there. So, that's something that we have talked about.
Okay.
Yeah, so We'd have to examine it and see how we'd work it out, and but it was effective, I can tell you that. We did it. So
You're looking to increase those calls?
Well, the sheriff normally calls me first before they send someone out.
Yeah.
'Cause for me, it's shooting.
Give me a
Shooting, yeah.
Okay. Can I get a motion for pay increase for Officer James Eaton?
I'll make a motion that we approve the requested pay increase for Ordinance Officer Eaton's pay raise from $18 an hour to $20 an hour.
Support.
Support by Bernie. Can I make a friendly amendment that we start that at January 21st? That was isn't that our payday? Back on January 21st, that was the next payroll?
It would have been the original meeting date.
Yeah, because we would have been here Tuesday.
Good with that amendment?
Fine.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, the next that we have is that on 8G, appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. This is for an alternate position. In the memo, I'll read it. The Board of Zoning Appeal consists of 5 members and 2 alternates serving 3-year terms. The current appointment of second alternate to the board expired on 12/31/24. It's recommended to appoint Jennifer Barth to the Board of Zoning Appeals. There were no other applications received for this position. She does not serve on any other boards at this time. She works for the state of Michigan, and we need an alternate in case somebody doesn't show up. Now, the hard part I'm going to say is that I think we need to take a look at over the next year about trying to get more applicants for all board positions. It's just a hard thing because some people don't want to do evening meetings and it's a time commitment, but I think we just have to have a recruiting effort on some of these boards.
The BZA's a hoot. It's a great board.
Well, you get a lot of different stuff, and that's what I've told some people. That's like one of the more interesting boards.
It is challenging sometimes, but we have a great board right now. We really do.
Good.
We get along well. Everybody's, open to suggestions, and we work through things. Sometimes it'll take a minute. With Phil's guidance, we get there.
I think planning's doing pretty good, and we've got some other things going on. So I need a motion to appoint.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jennifer Barth to Board of Zoning Appeals as an alternate with her term ending 12/31/27.
Support.
Motion Gore, support by Rooney. Any discussion? See no discussion, please take the roll.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye, motion carries. Next that we have is 8H. This is the appointment of Rick Steiner to the Compensation Commission. Steve Herr, who was serving, can no longer serve. Rick stepped up to fulfill the term. So he'll be there 12/31/25. They've already had their first meeting, so it's imperative we get somebody on this board. Rick also applied to be on a board back in September when he knew he was going to retire. So I appreciate him stepping up. Before there was a 5-year commitment, this is a year commitment. So if there's any other discussion, I'd like to get a motion to appoint Rick Steiner to the Compensation Commission.
I'll make a motion. Motion to approve appointing Rick Steiner to the Compensation Committee to finish out the term of Mr. Here. This term will be a partial term ending December 31st, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Support.
Janusik motion, support by Mr. Gore. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Stump?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montre?
Aye.
Mr. Pryor?
Aye. Motion carries. Next up, comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes for each individual.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. I'm here as a representative from the Compensation Committee, so I may take a little bit more than 2 minutes. The Compensation Committee is looking into all elements of compensation for the eligible employees, and that includes the health insurance program, includes the deferred compensation program, information related to the statutory duties we've already received from all kinds of areas. Some of them are the same. Some of them say you add this, that, the other thing. We're looking at that. We want principally to understand the change in accountability and responsibility of the positions, not come in and say, well, I need a raise only because I've been here a long time. We'll go back to your statement in a minute. We're getting and have received data from the Michigan Municipal Clerks Association for a recent salary survey for clerks in various governmental entities. We've had some notes from several township clerks for their salaries and what changes in accountability and responsibility that they have. We're looking at the inflation data from the federal government. We're looking at the consumer price index from the federal government. We're looking at the collection and some collection of contracts, federal and local, like yours that you used to have. We want to know what kind of changes are in those areas in terms of collective bargaining agreements. What are the changes there? We're also have the minutes and the information from the last compensation committee, and there's been some discussions with MTA. So we're casting our net a little bit wider perhaps than what was done in the past, but compensation is more than just how much you make a month. Compensation is your benefit package and how it is compared to others. We know in some townships you have a defined benefit program for retirement. Others have a defined contribution plan. Here we have a deferred compensation plan. Some of these are all different, but they have an effect on your overall package, and we're looking at the whole package now. We're also going to ask that the elected officials, all of you, come to our January 30th meeting starting at 6 o'clock to tell us about changes in your responsibilities and accountability in your position that's happened since the last compensation committee met, which was 4 years ago. So we're not interested in you having come in and say, well, I need a 3%er because that's what everybody else is getting. Tell us what the changes are in your responsibility and your accountability in your position. And so I have a memo here I want to pass out, which invites you to our meeting since our chief clerk Ed isn't here. You're not invited.
Should have stuck with my gut and voted no.
Well, it's one of the difficulties that we've experienced, and I've experienced, and all of you are experienced, I know, is trying to find a comparable township. There's almost no such thing to Bedford Township. We're a general law township, yet we're probably one of the 25 largest in the whole state. There are 1,240 townships. We also know and have been told that at the last election, 2024, 100 townships did not have a clerk apply for being elected. So the Secretary of State has to take over all of that. Trudy is making a lot of noises at us. But again, we're looking at the whole package because if you have as I said earlier, a defined benefit program, that township pays for all of that. There are townships who have that. There's also a defined contribution plan. Says, if you want to participate, this is your money. You put in your dollars and your cents. And then here we have a deferred compensation plan, which is somewhat like a defined contribution plan, but not quite. It's a little bit different. So we invite you to attend our meeting on the 30th and tell us what you think about your job, how it changes, what rules or what impacts are on your performance. And Joe, I think that was a 7-step at the county. And we run into this a lot when I was in the corporation. A janitor contributes just so much in terms of their effort toward the goals and objectives of the corporation. A nuclear physicist with a PhD is not going to be paid more because there's a PhD in the janitor's slot. You're going to pay the janitor's slot to a PhD nuclear physicist if that's all you have. So you can, in fact, you can design, and we've talked about this in the past, particularly when that compensation committee came in here, that compensation study that you guys had, you ran that guy out of town. We're not interested in that. Don't give that to us. We don't want it. But you can establish for many of the positions here a salary schedule and a spread. This is a new one coming in, gets paid this, and as they mature and get better in the job, you raise their salary. But what has been experienced in the past, you have a 10-year employee, and they're being paid this. You bring in a brand new employee who has never done a lick of work for you, and you put them at that same rate. Is that what you really want to do? I think that's something you have to study. And you said you're going to look at it. That'd be important to do. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Lamar.
And you are invited, Mr. Trump.
Gail Kane, 105.6 West Temperance. Thanks for the discussion tonight, everybody. It's wonderful. In regards to 4B, 8E, F, G, and H, again, no applications in the packet. Apparently, the staff didn't even have enough time to even get the applicants' names on the official document, which is called the agenda. So anybody wanting to do research in the next whatever will have to go through all the minutes in order to see the names of these people. However, apparently it's okay to publicly disclose all private and sensitive information of individuals from the public who do business with the township. And if you look in your packet, the person who applied for that change has all of their information, email, address, phone numbers, all of that was included in the packet. And then lastly, the DDA, despite 2 other items that were added to their agenda at the last meeting, there was no public discussion on recording these meetings. Now, if I recall right, Mr. Pryor said that he would take it up with them. I was at the meeting. It was not brought up at the meeting. It was not added to their agenda. So there was no public discussion. Therefore, no action was taken. Their next meeting, of course, will probably not be recorded. They have some big things coming up. They've got some big people coming in to get their money spent so that they don't have to give it back. They're going to come up with projects that they want to cite, just like with the ARPA money. They want to give this dedication to these projects so that they don't have to return any of those monies. I have a problem with this, and this is another one that's somebody's got to dig their heels in. Sorry, but again, thank you so much for the great meeting tonight.
Thank you for your comments. Board comments? Josh? Thank you for your comments, Josh. Okay.
I deserve that. Do you want to touch on the DDA recording?
Yeah, I can.
After I'm done talking.
Gail, it's gonna be on their next agenda, and it's 99.9%. We're gonna get them recorded, so that's gonna be taken care of. Yeah.
I've reclaimed my time.
Yeah, you reclaim your time.
Mrs. Keene brought up a good point. The headshots of ordinance officers on our website, I don't know if we have that. It wouldn't maybe be a terrible idea. These people are going to be showing up to your home with people impersonating stuff. It may not be a terrible idea to have our ordinance officers' headshots on there, like the trustees that we have on the website, just so people can know and recognize them, and not a bad idea.
We can take a look at that.
That's all.
Mr. Bruni.
Nope. Everybody have a good night, good weekend.
Mr. Gore.
Nope, just hope everybody has a good couple weeks. I will bring it up with the cold, especially with the last cold spell we have. Pets, folks, please check on your pets, and if you have pets that are outside, bring them in. Also, check on your elderly family or your next door neighbor or something like that. Make sure they're doing good. That's what our community is all about. So let's just make sure that we're taking care of each other out there.
Mr. Montry.
Nothing from me.
Ms. Janusik.
Just everybody have a great evening and a wonderful weekend.
I've got just a couple of things. One, the maintenance building is proceeding. They dropped off the steel, the coldest day of the year. They were out there delivering steel, one truck after another. So the steel's there. Everything is proceeding on schedule so far, so which is a good thing. We had our meeting today, and it went well. Again, I encourage people to please, get on our website, take a look at our board positions, and apply. We need people. Next thing, we've got the BBA is doing the trade fair on March 15th from 10 to 5. If you're a small business owner, any business owner and so on, join the BBA, get involved. What's kind of good if you've been to last where they've done it for one day, they're forcing people in there for one day. So you get a pretty good crowd if you're a business to see people. So I highly recommend it. I'll come to the board and we'll be asked to be in it. I'd like to have a couple tables. So we've been in it for every year, I think, Krista, haven't we? I don't think we've ever missed a year. Now, here's a fun thing, because we got to have some fun things once in a while, okay? American Pickers is coming to Michigan, and they're looking for stuff. And believe it or not, I forget the guy's name, but there was a guy in Bedford that dealt with the American Pickers that actually came to his place before. So this is they're coming, I think, next month or something. If anybody has anything, call me. I'll give you the number and so on. And who knows, we might get Bedford on American Pickers. It can't hurt. I know there's got to be something in somebody's barn somewhere that these guys want to go see, or a car somewhere. So give me a call, and we can take a look at that. So if there isn't anything else, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourned.